Hello, everyone, and welcome to a wonderful, it's cloudy for me. I heard it's sunny in Mobile, so hopefully the weather is pleasant enough where you are today. We are here for another APT monthly webinar. I'm really excited for today's session. One, because I don't do a lot of work on these. We just have our wonderful vendors and representatives come out and talk about their products, and we get to kind of really dig in and get nerdy with things. So today we are going to be talking about the Obi Feeding System. And for those of you following along, we do have slides and caption links in the chat. But our slides, it is a bit.ly link. Oop, one more. Let me back that bad boy up. Come on. And now I can't. Just technical difficulties everywhere today. There we go. Wait. I don't want to annotate. That's fun. Okay. Let me go full screen. Maybe that'll. Okay. There we go. That's weird. Okay. Do it this way. I just want to get the. Huh. Okay. Well, thankfully, I have the slide link elsewhere. So our slides, it is a bit.ly link. It is bit.ly/42 capital T as in Tom, capital P as in Peter, lowercase d as in dog, the number 0, and then capital U. And like I said, those are in the chat. And then, of course, when you click along on our YouTube channel, we'll have that link in the description as well. So moving on, we have our welcome page for those of you who are new joining to us. Please feel free to put questions in the chat throughout the session. There we go. We will have time at the end if you prefer to use a microphone for your questions. We just try to wait till we get some pauses or at least till the end of the session itself before we jump on the mic. But feel free to jump in chat throughout the session. If you have questions, we'll make sure that we follow up with those as we go along. And of course, we will have this session recorded. I know some people have to kind of come in and come out, and we really just want these to be available for you to learn about these products and devices. And you can find those on our YouTube channel. So it is youtube.com/@APTAT. And then, of course, our live captioners are here today. So that link has also been added to the chat. And of course, when we load this up on YouTube, hopefully we'll have lovely captions in there for you. So for those of you new to APT-AT, we are Alabama's AT-ACT program. We are here to increase knowledge, access, and acquisition of assistive technology. We do that through several different programs. One of our biggest is our short-term device loan program, where you can borrow devices from us. We also do demonstrations, so really giving you in-depth overview of different types of devices, helping you decide maybe which one you might want to try. We have a reuse program where you can take gently used durable medical equipment that we have in one of our centers, and that is yours for free as you need it. We also provide a variety of training, so not just this webinar, but also just special, one topic, maybe one type of community or population, really kind of customizing to your needs. We also provide technical assistance as well as resources for financial assistance. So while we do not necessarily purchase things for you, we do have some resources that you can go to help get that AT purchased. And I believe our presenter today has some updated information as well on some funding assistance for today's device. So the biggest question we always get about the AT-ACT program, other than where do I get to check out all these wonderful devices, is who is this available to? And it is for everybody in the state of Alabama. So you could be a person with or an individual with disability. You could be a parent or a caregiver, service provider, staff person, or just a company or organization interested in assistive technology to benefit your employees or your consumers. We are a program housed under Alabama Department of Rehab Services, but you do not have to be a consumer or client of that to receive our services. So while they house us, uh, that is not a barrier for you to interact with us and receive our services. All right, so all the boring, homeworky and logistics stuff's out of the way. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it over to our presenter, who is Heather Keaton. Heather is an experienced assistive technology professional who specializes in feeding technology, conducting assessments, navigating insurance processes, which is just kind of, you know, all the power and praise to people that figure out how to navigate those, and advocating for individuals in need. And Heather did mention in her bio that she is a parent of a child with special needs herself. So really coming at this from a not only a professional side of things, but also from a family member perspective. So Heather, just take it away. Tell me when you want me to move a slide.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction there, Jessica. As everyone heard, my name is Heather. So what I do at Team Obi is I do a lot of our education, but also a lot of the advocacy. So I assist with insurance appeals, finding funding, things of that nature, and also working to make policy change as necessary for some of the state programs. So working with Obi has been you know, very amazing experience to see all that independence come to individuals that can use it. So would love to share a little bit about some of the benefits of eating with Obi, what the intended use is, and then I'm actually at the end of the slides going to show you how easy it is to use the device. So Jessica, if you want to go ahead, and there's our title. And that's about how I look when I have mashed potatoes coming at my face. So certainly understand this. And let's go into our first slide there. So let's talk about some of the features that make Obi very easy to use. So it does have what's called effective food capture. You may have noticed that he was eating mashed potatoes. So how do you keep from just getting a big hole in the mashed potatoes, a big divot? So the device actually scoops from different angles and different depths. The other part of Obi is it has such smooth motion that it can do things as thin as water and liquids. So if you are someone who has a modified diet, just liquids, thickened liquids, or if you're on a full diet, it can accommodate any of those foods. Obi also has customized delivery position. So whether we're working with someone who may be 4 or 5 years old up through adulthood, someone with spasticity or contracture, we can change where the device is delivering the food to. Or if you're eating in different chairs or you change wheelchairs. So it's very quick and easy to change that delivery position. Obi is operated by switch. So while you'll see here in a little bit when I use my other camera, a lot of times these are pressure switches or buddy buttons. We do have some individuals using very flat switches. Some connect to their head array or use a sip and puff. We even have some individuals that connect to their eye gaze system. So Obi can be used with a lot of different switch options. It's very easy to set up and clean. So the utensils and the plate are dishwasher safe. That includes commercial dishwasher as well for any schools that have the device. You can do the plate and the spoons in a commercial dishwasher or residential dishwasher. The device itself, simply wipe down with a healthcare grade wipe or a Clorox wipe just to keep the device itself clean. It is very lightweight and portable, weighs approximately 7 pounds, and has a rechargeable battery. That battery is going to stay charged for about 3 to 4 hours of straight eating. So I guess it depends on how long you take to eat. Most meals are about 30 minutes. For me, I eat all day, every day, so I would probably kill my battery pretty quick. But for most people, it lasts about 3 to 4 days and then takes about 2 to 3 hours to recharge. So this is something that can go to work, school, vacation. If you do take Obi on vacation, you have to take me with you. That's not really true, but it sounded really nice, didn't it? We can go ahead and slide to the next one. I feel like I should say something like Vanna, slide to the next one. So who uses Obi? And I'm not going to go through all of these diagnoses, but essentially anyone with upper extremity limitations may benefit from the device. So if you can't use modified utensils, can't use arm supports, that's when something like Obi, because it's going to be the most intervention, really comes into play and restores that ability for functional eating. So bilateral upper extremity limitations, but here's a list of few of the diagnoses that we see. And we see so many more, but that gives you an idea of what we're looking at. All right, next slide. So what are some of the physical benefits that individuals see by eating with assistive technology versus being fed by a caregiver? So there's enhanced protection against aspiration. This comes from being able to protect your airway, knowing when the bite is going to be there. So that way you're able to protect your airway before taking that bite. We see diminished likelihood of GERD. So a lot of times when being fed by a caregiver, there may be rapid feeding or forced feeding, if you will, and that causes excess swallowing of air and a lot of digestion concerns. So by controlling that pace, it does limit that swallowing of air, reducing the likelihood of GERD. We do see potential increases in caloric intake and hydration intake as well, helping to prevent malnutrition and dehydration. This comes from just being independent, having the time you need to finish your meal, not feeling rushed, pressured, or concerned that maybe you're bothering someone, which is never the case, but sometimes we feel that way when we're dependent on others. So we do see an increase in caloric intake. With this increase in caloric intake, there's actually the lower susceptibility of pressure sores and enhanced healing. So one of the best things to heal a pressure sore or to prevent them is your nutrition, increasing that caloric intake. So by tying those together, we're able to help prevent some of those pressure sores that may occur. And lastly, another physical benefit is the reduction of close contact transmission of infectious droplets, cold, flu, COVID, possibly even pink eye. So any of those infectious droplets that are very common when you're in close vicinity to someone, we're able to social distance a little bit better. So those are some of the physical benefits to eating with assistive technology versus a caregiver. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, my glasses aren't, you're on. The psychological benefits. So what are those psychological benefits? The decrease in anxiety for improved mental well-being. So when we're dependent on others, sometimes we can get anxiety. Will that person be there? Will they fulfill my needs? Will I like that person? What if they're having a bad day? What if I'm having a bad day? So a lot of those things really increase that anxiety. So by giving back some of that independence, we can decrease that. We see reduction in depression, promoting a positive state of mind. And this just comes from that autonomy of being able to do things independently. A diminished sense of depnophobia. This is a great vocabulary word. So for those who think they aren't learning anything new, here we go, depnophobia. So that is the fear of eating in front of others. We see this in a lot of children or even elderly adults who have been independent their entire lives and now find themselves dependent on someone else for meals. They don't want to be seen as weaker, less than, or any, embarrassment over how they eat. So they develop depnophobia, this fear of eating in front of others. And then they'll eat in their bedrooms. They'll eat in the nurse's office at school or wherever that they feel that comfort. So we can diminish some of that depnophobia by giving back the ability to control the meal in a very, culturally appropriate way. We also see decreases in AFRID feelings, contributing to an improved sense of ease, allowing someone that struggles with AFRID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, to try foods when they want to instead of feeling forced to try them, can really decrease some of those feelings and give them the power to control what they're eating and when they're eating it. Do we have one more slide, I think? We do. So, oh, and this one got a little messed up, but that's okay. Let's talk a little about the social perks. So, what are some of the social perks of using assistive technology at mealtime? It really facilitates social engagement and conversation. So, a lot of times when we're fed by a caregiver, we're sitting 12 to 18 inches apart and feel that we need to almost converse solely with that person. So, by opening up the table and allowing a person to be independent, it really facilitates that social engagement and conversation. It really grants greater control over your dining experience as far as what foods you want to eat, how quickly you want to eat it. But it also allows you to express your unique style and preference. And you're probably thinking, what is she talking about, unique style? I don't have a unique style, but we all do. We all have a dominant side in our mouth. Mine is my right because I am right-handed. So you'll notice I often chew on the right side, or when I put the spoon in my mouth, it's often to the right side. We also have unique preferences as far as what foods we eat. Are you someone who eats all of one food before moving to the next? Eat all of it before moving to the next? Or do you take a bite of each one? Is it 3 bites of one bite of one? Do you save your least favorite for last? All of these are preferences and styles that are often overlooked when we're fed by a caregiver, just because it's something that's not commonly thought of. The other side of the social perks is a lot of what we do is so engrossed with food. If you go on a date, what do? You go to dinner and then an activity. If you're going out with friends, a lot of times it's a meal. If you're going to watch a movie at night, you may want to munch on some popcorn and have a soda. So a lot of what we do is has food involved in it at that school age level. When the kids all get 100 on their tests or they pass a really big state test, maybe it's a pizza party or an ice cream party. So food really is an integral part of day-to-day living outside of just breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Really opens up that social side. And then there is one more slide. We're not going to go over it, but it is just some of the references to all of those clinical studies. If someone is bored and wants to read a little bit more about those, you're more than welcome to pull up those studies and all of that information. I am going to go ahead and switch cameras now, so that way you'll be able to hopefully see my Obi. And I just noticed my next camera is not showing up because I forgot to plug it in. So let's do that and see if we can switch over to this other camera here.
Yeah, we see a second camera.
Beautiful. And you guys can see my Obi now, hopefully.
Oh, here, let me stop sharing my screen so we can just see it. There we go.
I think I can actually, is there a way I can, oh, I've already got the spotlight. Beautiful. So as you guys can see, I have Obi here with buttons, pressure switches, or buddy buttons, if you will. Obi's spoon is held on by a magnet. This is a safety feature, so that way if someone does have severe spasticity or muscle clenching, they're not pulling the robot off or choking themselves. The switches just plug into the front. I do not have this plugged into the wall, so it is on its battery. Powering the device on, you simply press the power button. Obi will come around and give you a bow. So we created the device with a little bit of personality. This is actually what it is named for as well. So Obi is not a Star Wars character in this case. It's actually short for the word obeisance, such as a bow before a karate match, which is why Obi comes around and bows. From there, a caregiver would be able to teach it where to deliver. To customize that delivery location, you press teach on the base, hold teach on the arm, and move it to where you want it. So maybe if it's someone smaller, someone taller, if they're farther away. So wherever you want that to deliver, and then you just press teach. So as you saw, it takes about 10 seconds to essentially set the device up. It's teach, show it where the mouth is, and repress teach. Obi's going to remember that location for the rest of the meal. It will also remember that location if it's powered off. So if you're someone who is eating at the same table, in the same chair, and maybe you don't have postural shifts or have enough trunk control that you can move to get your bite, you may not have to reteach it. But I do recommend reteaching it for every meal for anyone with limited trunk control or with positioning challenges. From there, you're able to use the switches to choose what you want to eat. When you get above the one you want, the other switch will take a bite. You'll notice Obi scoops will wipe the bottom of the spoon so if it's a liquid, it's not dripping, and then brings it to that preset location. From there, we're able to take our bite. As I mentioned, Obi can do liquids to solids. We just recommend you cut everything up to about the size of a blueberry, a grape, or a Hershey Kiss, if you will. After you take your bite, press either button and it will go back. And you can do the same process again. So this is how easy it is to use the device. As I mentioned, we do have individuals as young as 3 and 4, up to, I believe our oldest is either 92 or 93. So we do have a wide age range. As far as how do you get this device, what does that look like? Because that's always the number one question. In order to get Obi through insurance, you do have to have an assessment by an occupational therapist and an order from a physician. Okay, so your physician can just write an order saying you need a feeding device, and the OT will do an assessment to make sure Obi is the right fit for you, to make sure it is safe, to make sure it's going to fulfill the eating need that you have. From there, we would assist with submitting to insurance. We have seen approval through Medicaid in Alabama. We've seen some state waivers cover the device. We've seen a few private insurance as well. We do really struggle with Medicare, but it is something we are working on. But as of right now, individuals with Medicare would have to have a grant, a waiver, or another way of funding the device. And we can look at that if that's the case. But for individuals that have Medicaid or private insurance, this very well may be possible. I can also let you know that we do have devices, I believe, at every CRS location. So they're able to easily do those assessments if you get services through them. Also, Alabama Children's has a device, so they're able to do assessments there as well. But as you can see, super easy to use. With that, I am happy to answer any questions. I've been unable to see the chat if anyone's put anything over there because my screen's over here and my camera's over here.
There we go. I'm having all kinds of tech fun today over here. We don't see any questions yet, but I had a couple, and I wanted to throw a couple pieces of info as well. So our program, APTAT, we do have actually several OBs in our inventory. We have, I think, one or two in our office that are available for people to demo. And then also we have added some in our demonstration sites throughout the state. So we're just now opening 5 demonstration sites. We have one in Huntsville, Montgomery, Mobile. Where's the other one? Tuscaloosa. Yeah, Tuscaloosa, and there's another one I always forget. But each of those demonstration sites also have OBs available. Now, for APTAT, if you go to our website and you say, I want to borrow an OB, I will just let you know. We typically do not check out the devices directly to consumers because, you know, again, we're talking about feeding and swallowing. That's something that you want to make sure people know what they're getting into. We're more than happy for people to come to the office to see a demonstration of how it works. If we've also had situations where they were doing the evaluations, so the evaluator checked the device out from us to complete those evaluations. So that's totally a thing we can do. But if it's just like mom and dad or, somebody just at the house that wants to borrow it, that's not really going to be something that we're able to do. But we are happy to schedule a demo or put you in touch with somebody that can assist in doing some kind of evaluation or assessment process. So that way, again, it's just one of those, safety things, making sure people know what they're getting into. And especially because if it's something you fall in love with, you're going to want to help get that funding, which means you're going to need that professional there anyway to help do that funding. So might as well make sure they're in there from the beginning. So.
Exactly, exactly. And that's, very important, like you said, because to get that funding piece, you do have to have an occupational therapist do that assessment. So trying it at home, really would just hinder part of that process when we're going to need that anyway.
I did have a couple of questions. I noticed you said, kind of 3 and 4 is about the age range of where you start, and then on up through the years. But I'm curious if there are either specific physical limitations that maybe Obi is not a good fit for, or it's okay, but these are things you might need to consider.
Sure. So great question. We do have a list of contraindications, if you will. And I say, 3 to 4, our intended use is a cognitive age of 5. So we do see some individuals, children with arthrogryposis, for example, who have an advanced cognitive age. So at 3 and 4, they're ready to start using the device, but that's not necessarily everybody. So the individual has to understand if I press a button, I'm getting a bite. Okay, so cause and reaction, two-step process there. So that's important. Another contraindication is anyone with severe dysphagia or swallowing concerns. As Jessica mentioned, sending a device home, there's certain risks with eating. Well, dysphagia is one of our contraindications. So it is something that you have to be evaluated to make sure swallowing foods is safe. Anyone with severe spasticity may pull the spoon off. Okay, that spoon is held on by a magnet. So if you do struggle with severe spasticity or a severe bite reflex, you may not be a great candidate for the device. So may want to, again, be assessed for it to see if it will work because you may end up pulling that spoon off. Those are the 3 largest contraindications. There's a couple of others in our intended use or on our website if anyone wants to check those out.
Okay. And I'm just gonna confess, you made teaching that thing look way too easy. Because every time I pull it up and get it to set up for a demonstration, I feel like I am fighting with him more than I should. And I'm wondering and when I was watching you do it a couple times, I'm thinking I'm just not waiting long enough for it to turn on. But I just wanted to know if there are any other tips and tricks with the teaching that we should know about.
Teaching is one of the hardest things, and you guys can still, I'm actually going to leave it on this angle. So when I press the teach, you will notice Obi goes to this neutral position. So you do need to wait about that 3 seconds until it's in this position. On the base, the power button and the teach button will both be lit up. When you go to grab this, there's actually a ring here. So that way you know where to put your finger or your thumb. For me, it's easiest with my thumb because as soon as you touch this, it releases all the motors. You can kind of make it do the worm or something. It releases all the motors, and that often startles people. So what happens if you grab it and you're not ready for the weight? It does this. Okay, so if it does this and the teach is flashing and it's shaking its head, that's OB telling you I can't deliver there. Just pick it up and move it where you want it. But the main thing is keep your finger over this button the whole time. Because as soon as you let go of that button, the motors lock. Okay, so repress teach. And it'll go back, it will nod, yes, I have that. So, and this is the biggest error we have. People will press teach, both are lit here. Again, they do this. and then it scares them and they're like, oh goodness, what do I do from here?
Mm,
If that happens, again, just pick it up to where you want it.
great.
Hopefully that helps.
I think what I was doing was I was trying to do like a simultaneous pushing of both
Oh
teach
goodness.
or
Yeah.
something like that, or either I was pushing the teach button, but again, not waiting for it to get into
I'm
that.
not coordinated enough to press both at the same time. So it is, press this one is step one, hold this one is step two, let it go, step three. So it can all be done with one hand.
Perfect. And then is there anything we should know about in terms of positioning, like how far it can go, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I mean, it's as far as Obi goes forward, it goes approximately, I think, 9 to 10 inches forward. Um, so you can kind of see a little bit
Yeah.
better there. It goes about 9 to 10 inches forward and can almost go straight up. The good thing about Obi, if you try teaching it somewhere it can't do, it will flash and shake its head. That's telling you you need to move it slightly.
Okay.
Okay. So if it's shaking its head and saying no, you're out of its range. So we tried to build it with some of that intuition to help individuals make it a little bit easier. I will also say when we're setting that delivery position, it should be about mid chin in front of the mouth. Okay, we never want to deliver into the open mouth because that's not allowing a person to protect their airway.
Mhm.
Okay, so you always want to stop in front of the mouth, and I recommend about mid chin level because sometimes coming down can engage those neck muscles and help with some of this spasticity. I do have some individuals that have it delivered to the side and turn into it. That's perfectly acceptable as well. I think the main thing to remember though is not to deliver into the open mouth because our goal is for self safe eating along with self feeding.
And I think that's something even I didn't necessarily think about. And I know it's one of those when people want to sit down in front of it, they want it like like they want it so they'll never have to move. Like they just want to sit there and like have it like practically dump it in their mouth. But it makes sense the way you're talking about. You really want to, not just shove it directly in their mouth. They really need to have some amount of control on their end to take that bite.
Exactly. So with the caregiver, a lot of times in for any of us that are parents, you may remember some of this as well. Caregivers will put the spoon in and then dump it and wipe for the individual. This is where that lack of protection of the airway comes into play. Do you know when they're going to take their next breath, cough, sneeze, laugh? Any number of things. So if we're putting it in, dumping and wiping, that's not allowing that protection. With OB, they need enough head and neck control to take that bite. Okay, so this way they can take a breath, they can swallow, they can do whatever, they need to and then protect their airway before taking their bite. And sorry guys, I'm not putting this spoon in my mouth because my grandkids were here over the weekend and I don't know what's on it right now. But hopefully that gives you an idea.
Sure. And I haven't seen any questions yet in the chat, so everybody feel free to ask your questions if I'm not asking the ones you want. But then I just take over the show. Um, but I did have a question about the spoon, and just more of curiosity and to see if anybody else had this question. Is that the only utensil that Obi comes with? Does he have a deeper spoon? Is there a spork somewhere?
I get that question a lot. That's kind of why I'm giggling a little bit. So our current Obi comes with two spoons. One is a little more shallow and one is a little deeper. They do look very similar in size, though. With that being said, for those that are here or watching this video, a little sneak preview, we are coming out with a third generation device. I do not have a release date as of yet. I'm guessing second quarter of this year. So maybe over the summer. And when that is released, it's going to have our regular size spoon. It's going to have a smaller pediatric inspired spoon. That's going to be a little less shallow and a little smaller for either pediatric clients or individuals that struggle with lip closure. It's also going to have a larger, deeper spoon. So think about larger bites or soups, stews, those mixed texture foods. And then lastly, it's going to have a spork. Um, so I don't know how old everyone is in here or who's watching, but think back to retro Taco Bell with the spork. So it is going to have, four different utensil options from a small, medium, large, and then a spork.
Let me just see if I have any other questions. I was trying to write down some stuff as you were talking. And I think you covered all of my questions. Any other tips and tricks or things we didn't cover?
So the hardest thing with Obi is the food prep. It is the food prep because if you have an overly large bite, if you're cutting them too big, you're going to get this huge bite of food, or things like macaroni and cheese that are really tacky and stick together. You may need to thin it out with like some milk or some butter. So there is some tips and tricks for food prep, and we certainly do our best to send out information and update everybody. Things like if you're having salad or spaghetti, you're going to have to cut it up pretty small. Burgers will have to be deconstructed. So there's food prep, but that's, the most difficult part, in my opinion, to using Obi. I will say if you are a caregiver and you're working with someone that has been fed for a long time, maybe they've never eaten independently, or maybe it's been years. I do recommend starting a little bit slow, maybe using the Obi utensil to feed a couple of meals so they get used to that spoon size. And then maybe try an Obi one meal a day, with some favorite foods rather than just saying, okay, here it is, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we're going for it. So maybe start that process a little slower so not everyone is intimidated. For pediatric clients, one of the things I do like to mention is if you do get one through insurance, I do recommend talking with the school to see if they would be interested in purchasing one so there's a continuity of care and of independence at home and at school. Because school lunchtime is such an important part of a child's day. It's their time to recharge. It's their time to really connect with friends, and it is imperative to their, cognitive development. So talking to the school, do they want to have one as well? So that way you don't have to bring it back and forth is certainly an option. The other thing is, as I mentioned, you can use any switch that plugs into a headphone jack or a 3.5 millimeter jack. So if you're a gamer, you may already have some switches, but there's things like switches you squeeze. There's ones that you tap with your head. These you can use your feet, your arms, So there's any number of switches. So don't let the thought that you actually have to press this button limit you, because there's going to be a switch that you can use. That's something that we can work and figure out. So those are some of the tips, tricks, suggestions, questions I get asked regularly.
Okay. And just gonna give another shout out to APTAT. We have quite a variety of those different types of switches. So it's, we have the twitch switch, the touch switch where you're not having to put any pressure, the blink, the sip and puff. So all those switches that she mentioned, we have in some way, shape, or form, proximity switches, etc. So again, don't let just because you see that little buddy button, and even that buddy button can, like she said, put it on your feet, put it on your elbow, put it wherever you want. We've got mounts for that too. So I don't want people to think that's the stopping point. I did have a quick question. I noticed that Obi decided it was tired and put his arm down, but it looks like it's still on. So I'm assuming to reactivate it, you could just press a button. He'll pop right back up again. But when does he auto turn off? Like when is he done if you're not continually using
It's
him?
20 minutes.
Okay.
So Obi's going to stay in this position for 20 minutes. So if you want to wake it up, it's going to act just like I do in the morning, kind of give a little stretch, shake everything off, and be ready again. It'll go to sleep in about 5 minutes. That's just to conserve the battery, save the motors, but it will stay on for about 20 minutes.
Okay. And I know you and I had talked about this via email. We had somebody that was looking at this as a potential way for them to, have somebody in their household who maybe is not able to feed themselves, but have a way for them to get that food, as independently as possible. But the thing you mentioned to me, and I did not think about, it was, well, how are they going to turn it on? Because it's one thing to prep the food and have it there, if it's something that can stay out for a while and somebody can kind of come and get it as they need it throughout the day, would be great, except you still have to turn it on, that initial turn on, and that button's probably a little hard for most of us to get to. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Well, and there is something. So, with that new generation device that I mentioned that is coming hopefully this summer, second quarter, it's going to have a power on mode. If the device is plugged into the wall, you will be able to hold the button down for 3 seconds and it will power on. So,
Okay.
you will no longer need to hit this tiny power button. Now, this feature will only work when it's plugged in. Okay, so that way a caregiver or an adult, if it's a pediatric client, but someone will have to plug the device in. It can be left plugged in all day, but that way there's a safety feature. So if an individual shouldn't be eating alone, they don't have the ability to turn it on. But if it is plugged in and a caregiver has to go to work or to the store, they could definitely leave some shelf stable foods in there. The individual can hold the button down for 3 seconds and it will power on. It will come around and bow and do the whole sequence. But again, that still leaves, if they don't have trunk control, if that bite is slightly off, that may be a concern. So this is going to be for someone who is able to safely swallow, be independent to eat alone, but also have enough trunk control to get to that spoon if it's not at the perfect location.
Okay. Perfect.
So
Thank
hopefully
you.
that clears that up a little bit and
Yeah.
answers the question.
And
We
then
see it
that's
with a
for
lot
the
of people with
new.
ALS.
Yeah. And that's for the new one, not this current one.
Correct. That's for the new version. And I will say, if you start your assessment process here in the next couple of weeks, by the time it works its way through insurance, we will likely have the Gen 3 out. The insurance process takes about 8 to 12 weeks in Alabama. Be thankful because it takes 6 to 9 months in other states. Um, so, so we see about a 2 to 3 month, time period between you get your assessment, get everything submitted, things of that nature. So if you start that process here in the coming weeks, by the time your device is ready to be ordered, we will have that next generation out.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I don't think we have any other questions in the chat, but if you just want to hang on for a few more minutes while I finish up the slides. And everybody, please feel free, if there are other questions, if you want to jump on the mic, please feel free. I'm just going to throw a couple more links into the chat. If you have a chance, we really do appreciate everybody filling out our feedback surveys. This lets us know that if you're finding these to be useful trainings and information, and then that way too, if there is a topic or a particular device that you would like us to discuss, please let us know. We'd like to do that for you. And then also, I wanted to let you know our next session is May, and we'll have Erin from Control Bionics. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have her in March, but she was able to schedule us in May. And this is going to be a really great discussion about not just AAC with Control Bionics, which is a great system, but really talking about multiple access methods, not just being strictly an eye gaze user or a direct select user, but having that user that may need to switch throughout the day, depending on fatigue, depending on situation or environment or what they're trying to do at that time. And really talking about how to maybe evaluate those needs in terms of multiple methods. And we're going to demonstrate that today, or not today, but during that session with the Control Bionics device. But it's really information that can go, and apply to your other evaluations for AAC. Oh, and Heather mentions that the control, yes, I do remember Aaron telling me that the Control Bionics have switches that work with the Obi. It is, I believe it's called the Control Access. No, Cosmo Connect. That's what it's called. Yes, with the NeuroNode. So they have a device with their NeuroNode that it's called a Cosmo Connect that will hook, I think, with Obi, with other devices too, where you're using those access methods through the through Control Bionics. Ooh, excuse me, I got a little froggy there. All right, so thank you, everyone. If you have any last minute thoughts or questions, please jump on the mic, put it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Heather, thank you for being our presenter today. This was absolutely great information. I know I learned a lot in terms of just what to consider when I'm looking at somebody that wants to look at more independent eating options. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And please reach out if anyone has any questions or if we could help with anything.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.